good warm evening. I'm not seeing anyone new. Oh yeah, first time here? No, no one is here. First time, I think. So no strangers tonight. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Weekend, long weekend. And today's topic is a little bit funny. Not funny, but interesting. I don't know how to say. Someone said this was a good title, Rona, one of the morning class students. She helps with creating titles and topics for the Thursday evening. So she said, the religion of problems. Tonight's topic. And she was kind of saying we have created a mindset that focuses on problems all the time. And it has become like a religion to think about problems, to talk about problems, to share problems, to dream problems even. She says in this day and age it is like a religion, all the time just focusing on problems. So she said it would be good maybe to address it and share some thoughts and insights in how we might shift that little bit. But do you agree? Problems have become a religion. Now, what is the reason that we only talk about problems, think about problems all the time? What do you think? They need to be solved. Okay, so we have some problems. We think about them, we talk about them. Are they necessarily solved? No. So we continue to think about them and to talk about them, and then maybe they are solved. And then there are another set of problems, and another set of problems, and another set of problems. So what is the reason you think? The situation is not according to the way I want. Maybe we should define what is a problem. Something that does not meet your expectations. Interesting. A problem is that what does not meet my expectation. We take life for granted and we don't know how to appreciate. A problem is something that makes a problem is something that makes your life difficult. Otherwise, it's not a problem. Yeah. I'm laughing, but not laughing at the situation, just to make things light. Obstacles that become a problem.
The stories you make up and give power to a problem and believe in the problem.
Yeah, interesting. No? The stories we make up and we give power to a situation and it becomes like a problem.
Or the narrative in your head that makes
Yeah.
the problem there in the first place. You have a problem, so you make up more.
The narrative in our head about situations that there might not be a problem, but because of what goes on in the mind, I'm making a problem. Anyone else?
Something that makes me soft.
Something that makes you suffer?
Someone experiences them, just experiences. There's no bad or good, but it's just our perceptions, define them that way.
Yeah. Experiences or situations are just situations, but how I perceive them decides. Mm-hmm. Anyone else? Why are we consumed by problems?
Sometimes people want to feel important, so they create problems.
The need to feel important, so they create a problem and then they solve it so that they can feel important. What complications?
He thinks himself as a hero.
If he solves the problem, he thinks that he's a hero. Mm-hmm. Anyone else? How would it feel to be problem-free? Free? Free. Can you feel what it feels like to be problem-free? Calm, peaceful, free.
It depends on how you react to the situation.
It depends on how you react to a situation. Yeah. One thing is very useful to understand, no? And someone mentioned already is, say for example, these flowers. Everyone sees these flowers. But everyone has different feelings and thoughts about these flowers. Some might even think, I'm allergic, why they have these flowers here? So the situation is same, but it is our individual internal factors that decide how we react to it. So one person may look at it and he says, oh, so beautiful, and want to smell and think about their childhood when they were playing in the yard and whatever. Someone else may be heartbroken ex-boyfriend who did not give flowers or gave flowers and stopped giving flowers. So one of the things of Valentine's Day. Someone else may be thinking, oh, I'm having some ailment and maybe I need to have some rose petals and grind them and make some tea and maybe it will help. And a biologist may think, oh, this is some artificial cultivation hybrid. And some painter, some artist may feel inspired to paint. And the manager of Whole Foods may think $35. So it is the same scene, the same situation, but what you think and how you react to it and what you do with it is depending on your own internal baggage, you could say, your perspective. And this is a phenomenon that is useful to understand. Say, one time at the bus stop, there is a couple standing there and some other people, and the bus comes and the bus driver is there, and this man, he collapses. He falls to the ground. Now, wife begins to scream, chaos. Another person standing there, he takes off his jacket and he takes the jacket off the man and start feeling the pulse and start resuscitating. And the bus driver, he gets on the phone and he calls 911. So the same situation, but three people react completely differently to that same situation, according to their baggage. And also thinking about your mental baggage, in some cultures, women take out their front teeth. You know why? Because it makes them beautiful. In their culture, it is considered beautiful to have a hole in front. It doesn't matter. So in some cultures, bigger the hole, more beautiful is the woman. In our culture, we feel that is ugly, but we paint our nails, we paint eyes, we paint lips. Why? Because we think that makes us beautiful. In the cold, on high heels, because we think it makes us more beautiful. In other cultures, they look at that and they think. So even your sense of beautiful or ugly, there is a baggage and there is a mental framework. 200 years ago, in the newspaper, there would be, what is it called? The ads, how to get fat. Because at that time, that was considered beautiful and healthy. How to get fat. Today, it is the opposite. So our mental baggage of how to approach life, how to deal with life, what to think of situations in life, has to do with a certain mental framework that we are in. You understand? And that it differs from person to person. It has to do with your perspective. But somehow, at this moment in time, we have managed to become very, very united in seeing problems all over the place. We have created a mindset very, very united everywhere, mostly, that we see problems. So what is this mindset, and is there a way to shift? Yes? So what can we do? How can we do that?
Choose.
Choose? Choose what? One way, no? One way that is useful to, or a kind of a certain slogan to keep in mind when approaching any situation, is to aim and try to see a bigger picture. A bigger picture in sense of whatever is there, but also a bigger picture in terms of time. Huh? Because sometimes there is a situation and we make it so big in our mind. But next week, no one will remember. You understand? So sometimes, not always, but sometimes it is like that. So aim to see a bigger picture. But also, what is good to know is a little bit of the dynamics of your inner functioning. And when I talk about inner functioning, I'm not talking about your stomach or your heart or your liver or your kidney. That is the inside of the body. No, but the inner being, the one who is thinking and feeling, a little bit more understanding of how that functions. So there is a part of us that is tangible and visible, and there is a part of us that is invisible, but very real. Now, for example, your thoughts are part of that. And so there is a manifest part to us, and there is a non-manifest part to us. And that non-manifest, that invisible part to us, consists of a mind, what we call intellect, or your reasoning power, or your power to discern or make choices, and there is your subconscious. And this is a very simplified model to kind of get to know your inner world. Now, what your mind does is it kind of manifests thoughts, feelings, emotions, attitude. It also manifests your sense of identity, you could say. Identity, it generates a certain atmosphere and vibrations. And then there is the intellect that as if supposedly guides the mind. And the subconscious consists a whole network of impressions from thoughts and feelings and inclinations from the past. Everything that you have thought and felt and experienced and habitually have done, it has an impression in your subconscious and it's stored there. Now, we have all these tools, these inner tools. All of us have. We have this, no? All of us have. We have all these tools. Now, if there is an external situation, flowers, for example, these are there. So through the eyes, through the sense organs, I'm seeing flowers. And depending on the impressions in my subconscious, depending on the wisdom I carry in my intellect, I react to those flowers with feelings of appreciation or feelings of scared to get an allergic reaction or feelings of memory of Valentine's days and broken heart. Depending on what is stored here and depending on the strength or the wisdom in the intellect, to create certain thoughts or not certain thoughts. Understand, this is a simplified kind of map inside.
So like it's what you control, and subconscious is what you do not control.
Exactly, 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 exactly. So the intellect is like a kind of a pivotal, important strength, function inside. But if the intellect doesn't have any clarity, if the intellect is weak, if the intellect doesn't have much wisdom, then the intellect cannot guide the mind properly. Yeah? And so our reasoning power, our discernment power, our power to choose, that is this intellect. But if the intellect is unconscious, for example, or if the intellect is confused, or if the intellect is weak, then these things can take over. No, before, for example, this Valentine's Day, whatever, thought is coming. But the intellect says, but that is 10 months ago. Or whatever. There are so many other things that happened since last Valentine's Day. Why I have to think about Valentine's Day? There are millions of roses. Why every rose I have to think about last Valentine's Day? This is not clever of me. You understand? So, the intellect decides how to process that information. The intellect can decide whether that information is useful or not. Why do I highlight this specific incident whilst I can think of so many other things? Yeah, so this is the function of the intellect. Now, for some reason, we have over time conditioned ourselves and conditioned the intellect to allow thoughts of problems all the time. All the time. And more we think thoughts of problems, what will happen? Those problematic thoughts and problematic feelings are impressed in the subconscious. So those impressions become stronger. So they are triggering new thoughts, and then the intellect says, yes, we have to chew on that more. And then more thoughts and more feelings of complication, again reinforcing that impression in the subconscious. Now, what is a more useful way to deal with this? Yeah, you understand? Am I a bit clear what I'm trying to say? So we get repetitive thoughts, repetitive thinking about the same thing, or a repetitive approach to situations. This happens in New York City? We get in certain patterns of thinking and patterns of approaching the thing in the same way.
How do I know that this is the same pattern? Like, how can I recognize that?
We can only recognize it by being introspective, observing ourselves. Introspective means observing ourselves and being honest with ourselves. That you see the same. Let's take a simple example. Someone at work doesn't say hello to you. Someone doesn't say hello. That is just a neutral situation. person doesn't say hello. But what happens in here? Why are they not saying hello to me? So actually I am interpreting it as a problem. There are so many people outside who don't say hello to me. Isn't it? So many people in the subway, and when you walk outside in the building, people don't say hello. Some say hello. You see me stand next to them in the elevator, 10 floors, you're spending 1 minute with them. Nobody says hello. But this person, you think, why? How come? What did I do? I should have done. Maybe I should try. Maybe. The whole story going on inside. So who has made it a problem? The situation happened 1 second, but I am thinking about it 10 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe even at home also. Just one moment. So one situation is where we make things bigger than they are. But there are situations that are big. But if I'm observing myself, many situations I make bigger than they are by repetitively thinking about it. Now, if I do that with myself, if I'm repetitively thinking about it, what happens to me? That situation will come again and again. Okay. What else? You will block yourself from that person maybe. You will get angry with that person maybe. What else?
You're disempowering yourself by beating yourself up all the time.
You're disempowering yourself, definitely, by kind of beating yourself up. But what happens if you make a physical movement all the time, what happens? You get tired, isn't it? And if it is a useless movement, you get uselessly tired. Isn't it? Now what happens here? If you think the same thing again and again and again and again and again, and on top of that, it doesn't solve anything. What are we doing? Exhausting ourselves uselessly. So is that intelligent?
It's good to know why you feel that it comes from a lack of self-worth, lack of feeling qualified, doing something about your self-worth, feel good about yourself first, and then that
But even a problem or not a problem, do I need to think about it? Someone doesn't say hello to me. Can I solve it? Maybe I can, but I cannot solve it thinking about it. I can only solve it by just saying hello and see how it is react. And if not react, then I decide what I will do or not do. Full stop. That is another power of the intellect, the power to put a full stop. What do you want to do?
I was just going to ask about, you already answered, if that situation is truly bad or it's not that nice. It is not something that made up, but that's going on. Then what? But you already answered that.
Yeah. To continue to think and think and think and think and think, does make you? It just makes you crazy. and tired and exhausted and confused and disempowered and exhausted. And it hasn't solved anything. Actually, you have made yourself weak doing that. So if you feel it is useful to change that situation, then you act. Or you leave it for what it is and you say, okay, maybe in the future, one day. But why continue to think and think and think and think and think about it? You're disempowering yourself. You're using the strength of the intellect to create useless thinking. So your mind gets overloaded with useless thoughts and your intellect gets weaker and weaker and weaker. And the impressions you are filling your subconscious with are useless cyclical thinking. So how will you end up feeling about yourself? Useless.
And then you have a bad day.
And then you have a bad day, you have a heavy head, you have a headache, whatever. Yeah. And then you can't sleep. And then when you wake up with the same heavy head. Now who is doing all of that?
Whoever experienced.
I did that. Nobody, the weather did not do that. The neighbors did not do that. So first step in this shifting away from this religion of problems is to know a little bit the map of your consciousness, this inner map, and choose to empower the intellect, acquire more wisdom, and take time to reflect, observe yourself. Take time out when there is a certain situation. What is the best way to deal with it? And Urmila was saying, I don't know who, things are not up to your expectations. Now, if they are not, what can I do? Will they come up to your expectations by you thinking about it? Most of the time not. So maybe we're using the wrong power there. If things are not up to my expectations, maybe my expectations are misplaced. Maybe I just need to learn to accept. I'm giving a ridiculous example. If in the winter I am expecting it to be summer, yeah, I'm gonna be endlessly disappointed all the time. There are things that are just the way they are, and I can create unreasonable expectations, but I'm only making myself miserable doing that. Isn't it? So what is wiser use of your inner energy? Creative thinking. Can you give an example?
Accept.
It is 35 degrees, not 90. So how do you do creative thinking? Yeah, you wear warm clothes and you say, oh, this is nice change from the summer. For example.
You go to ice skating, which you cannot do in the summertime.
Yeah. There are things you cannot do in the summer that you can do in the winter.
You look for the hidden opportunity there.
Yeah. Very good. That is much better use of the energy and the strength and the power of your intellect. Use creative thinking or use adventurous thinking, which is even nicer. Adventurous thinking. Shift your perspective. Understand? Now, in say there is something that is really a challenge. A problem. What can we do to shift our perspective? Say there is what? I can't think of an example now, but say there is a storm is coming. Okay. Snow, blizzard is coming. What can you do? Be grateful that you can stay indoors. You don't have to go to work. But if you have to go to work,
I think, except first I would say, is there something I can do about it? Is there any way I can stop it?
can you stop the blizzards?
So that's not in my control, so I cannot do anything about it.
Yeah.
So I'll try to find what are things in my control.
Yeah. What is in my control? In what situation in life do we enjoy challenges? When you are a child?
Take it as a playing game.
When you're playing games? When we are, for example, when we're doing sports, for example, or when we're playing games? That is the time when we actually enjoy problems. Not problems, we will not call them problems then. But you will call them challenges or a test or something that will help you up your performance. Isn't it? Any sporters here? That is when we're playing games. That is the whole idea. Now, one way to shift away from these religions of problems is to what? To approach life with this attitude of sport, this attitude of game. Playing the game of life. And there are so many good video games these days, but none of them can beat the real thing. Mm.
Just helps you awaken. Like the material things no longer are important because this bad thing happened to you and you know this one other important things in life.
Yeah. When we were little, we used to want to learn to play tennis. So first what they tell you, they give you a ball and a tennis racket and a wall. So you play with the wall and you hit the wall and you hit the wall. And in the beginning it doesn't go very well, but after a while you practice and it goes very well. And then the wall becomes not challenging anymore. So then you need someone to play with. Someone who hits back. And in the beginning that doesn't go so well, but you practice. And then you become better. So then you need someone who is better, and someone who is better, and who hits the ball with special effect. No? what that process does with us, it brings out our higher potential. It trains us with more skills. Now, one way to shift away from this mentality of heaviness and thinking and problematic all the time is to move back into that space of play, space of game. And not necessarily childish, but this is a bigger game going on here in life. And we all have these tools inside. And so we can use these tools and up these tools and become more skillful to deal with situations. Become more accepting or more courageous or just plain more wise. Does it make sense? Wise. Wise. More wise. And one I don't know how to say it. If life is dealing us a card that has a certain heaviness, maybe it means that we need to be wiser, up our game. Up our game. And that potential is there to do. And that up our game sometimes means power to say no, power to face, or sometimes it means learn to cooperate. Sometimes it means be more patient. Sometimes it means be more loving. Sometimes it means learn to withdraw. Sometimes it means learn to face. Face with wisdom. Yeah. So, but we have these tools inside, learning to use them. Maybe part of the, then maybe that is the whole idea. Any thoughts? Sorry. Any thoughts or comments?
What happens when we get stuck in the routine and we're not challenging ourselves to go to the next step? To be adventurous.
I think life kind of pushes us. Life kind of pushes us. It is as if we, game is not the choice, but how we play the game, that is our choice. Yeah. Can you give me an example so we could explore this? What do you feel is a problem? And that is tormenting you. Same thoughts, same thoughts, same thoughts. A disagreement with your partner. Okay. And that keeps nagging. Thought comes back and back and back and again and again and again and again. And you see it as a problem. So what to do? using these tools, what is the first step I can take? Yeah. So the first thing is to say, stop. Why am I thinking so much about this? What can you do more? Shift your thoughts. Shift thoughts to more productive thoughts. Okay. What else? First of all, are there two people in this world who are same? Are there two people in this world who think same? So this is one of the things you use your intellect for. Disagreeing a problem, then the problem is already solved right there. Accepting the difference is a problem. Accepting the difference is a problem, or yeah, very good. Very good. It is the ego that doesn't accept.
So this is a
That
situation and an opportunity for you to learn to reduce or subdue your ego.
Yeah.
And choose to understand, communicate.
or at least accept that others have different opinion. Others see things differently, rightly or wrongly, but that is just the way it is. That is just the way it is, and from their perspective, they are right. Isn't it? Now, if I use their opinion to make myself miserable, is that right? Exactly. Now, what have we done whilst we were talking about this? What have we done? We have used our power of reasoning to create a bigger perspective.
So, I know when I'm in disagreement, sometimes it comes to me that I have to choose how to respond.
Mm-hmm.
And I can go back and forth easily without thinking what I'm saying. And so does that person back to me. But if I choose how I respond, then I won't react to what's saying, a thought, to an emotion, and then I can act or react. That's the difference, good or bad. So I have the power to choose how I respond
Very good.
with
Yeah.
the communication.
What was that
Excellent.
like using the intellect like over just like the mind would be responding?
Yeah.
Just by emotion.
You might be saying something to me that's going to aggravate me, and you're doing it on purpose, and I'm like, no, I won't allow you to, because I'm choosing not to respond to that. You know, fire.
Yeah. No, very good. Someone says, someone may be pushing
Yeah.
a button, but if I have no buttons to be pushed, you understand? But whatever that situation is, you will be lighter and you will be more clear if you have this attitude of game. If you have the attitude of learning. If you have the attitude of seeing a bigger perspective. No, this game, this game is about playing and playing your best skills.
In loving,
Yeah. Loving or not loving, but not getting stuck. That is what, and this is where the intellect is kind of precious. What is the perspective that I hold in my intellect about life in general? Now, you can have a perspective on life of life is what? Life is suffering. If that is your conditioned idea about life, then everything will be even someone who gives you roses will be will be a problem. If you hold the perspective that life is a war, you will feel scared and fearful and mistrusting everything and everyone. If you hold the perspective that life is a school, then you will, in every situation, try and see the lesson to learn. If you hold the perspective that life is a game or a sport, very sophisticated sport, then you will see every situation as a way to use your skill or refine your skill or strengthen your muscles to deal with that situation. If you have the perspective that life is unjust, then you will feel a victim in every situation. Victim in every situation. If you feel that life is, how do you say that? Perfect. Then you will look for the good in everything. So what you hold in your intellect about life? If you hold in your intellect that life is a journey, that we are travelers through time and space, then everything is a experience, exploration, adventure, discovery. Yeah, very good. If you hold that life is, what is it? What is the opposite of this? Is mean. How do you say that? Mean or evil? Mean, nasty. And that you have to accumulate as much as possible to defend and protect. Life is like a war. Then you will always feel that you are lacking. And that is never enough. You will always feel insecure. If you feel that life is a gift, every moment is a gift, how will you feel?
Lucky to be here.
Yeah, lucky and grateful.
We are so much lucky than many others.
Yeah. Yeah. an extra gift, you will feel lucky. Now, all of these things are are possible for us, but for some reason we have kind of all shifted into this or this or this or this, and from there we approach life without using the intellect. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? And you can play with this for yourself. In a day, just say, okay, today I will explore this idea of life as a what? As a journey. I, this being, the inner being, the being of consciousness, I am on this journey. And then there is this experience of cold. This is interesting. There is the experience of flowers. This is interesting. There is the experience of crowd in Penn Station. It's all very interesting. Different experience, and then there, on the street someone shouting, oh, that is another scene. And someone smiling, that is another experience. And you're discovering your own feelings and reactions. But if you feel unjust, then everything becomes a heaviness and you feel victimized about everything. The power of perception, the power of perspective. And this is, and you want to make any comments about this? Mm-hmm.
So, like for example, if I want to look at the life as a gift or in a positive way, but our culture so far, or the way we are brought up and the external factors have made us so negative that we always look at it from the negative perception. So even if I want to shift my perception to the positive way, I would love to, but after that my intellect doesn't know how to think about positive things. Move to the positive way. So what are the different sources or things that we should explore to move it to or to shift it to the positive way? That is where people struggle. Even if they want to, they don't know how to do that.
Yeah, very good. I personally feel there's only one real way, no? And that is through spiritual wisdom. No? Gather more spiritual information, sessions like this, sharing with people who hold different perspectives and explore, but we have to actively, as if unlearn and relearn by exposing ourselves to different ways of seeing and feeling. But even for myself, in any situation, I may be conditioned to think in a certain way, but I can say, okay, is there another way to see this? Ask myself. And if I don't have an answer, I can ask others. Is there another way to see this? Ask others who are also on the spiritual journey. Is there another way to see this? And be actively exploring. Because it is true, we may be very strongly conditioned in a certain way, but we have learned that. So we can learn something else also. But I feel our survival depends on it, so we should do it. But it is true. This is why we call it the religion of problems, because we are conditioned to think in a certain way. but it is destroying us. And it makes our lives miserable. Unnecessarily.
I'm in such wretched state sometimes that I have to do affirmations. I just have to repeat the word sport. Or say them out loud.
To remind yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, just like hitting.
What I used to do is, and sometimes I still do, not sometimes, regularly I still do. I will listen to, meditation commentaries that shifts my mind. Even if I'm not actively meditating, but I'm listening to certain meditation commentaries that give me different ideas. I read certain spiritual about topics. It shifts my mindset. It shifts the way I discuss with like you, and I get more ideas. I get more ways of seeing certain things. All of this helps, and of course, in my meditations, the practice becomes firm to understand the self as a spiritual being, as opposed to a physical human being, a spiritual being. More that I free myself from the limitations and the constraints of thinking of myself as a human, limited, physical being, but a timeless being of consciousness. A being with endless potential, and more that I go into that state of mind, it opens up creativity, it opens up more refined and higher feelings, and it is like healing for the self. And then new ideas and new perspectives come. Something that before the meditation felt like a complicated, heavy thing, after my meditation, it is still there, but I don't feel heavy about it anymore. I don't see it as a complication, and I say, okay, can I deal with it? I will. If I can't, then I don't, and it just be what it is, but it doesn't make me heavy anymore. So to actively explore your potential, that is whatever we have learned, we can unlearn. But we will not just unlearn like that. We have to expose ourselves to different feelings and way of looking. And sometimes that also means that you are wiser in choosing your company. You have to be wiser in choosing your company.
I would say not to worry too much about the problems, because the only constant thing in life is change. It's, even if the situation is good or bad, it will change. And only constant which is not changing in our life is the soul. Like, even after death, we are soul, it's still alive and it moves on, life moves on. So every other thing is material and it will change. Whether it is good or bad, it doesn't matter. So not to worry too much.
No, this is very good. Find a slogan or find a concept and repeat that to yourself when you're in situations. And just for one final comment, the spiritual perspective, the Raj Yoga perspective on life is quite opposite to what many and most of us have grown up with. What Raj Yoga says is you are innately a spiritual being of consciousness, a living, conscious, pure, divine being of living, potential, thinking energy, an experiencer. Invisible, subtle, but innately pure, innately playful, innately divine, free, timeless, immortal, eternal being of consciousness. This is the real self. This is what went into the womb when the fetus was 3 months old, like this. And then it started moving and mother says, oh, life. So body was there, little, but the being, the soul went into, and then there is life. You are that being. The real you is that being of consciousness, the soul. And that being has endless power. That being is innately peaceful and free and divine in nature. And that being, the soul, the higher self, the inner self, so many names, has come into the physical world, into a physical body. To play. To play the game of life. And when I say play the game, I don't mean this in a childish or demeaning kind of way. But that being has come to use and express the inner qualities here. In this journey, and at some stage, the being will leave this game again. And in this play, I will use this word drama for it. The world drama. Sometimes it's a drama, sometimes it is a horror, sometimes it is a comedy, sometimes it's a romance, sometimes it's a party, sometimes it's a war. All kinds of different scenes in this play. And this being goes through all those different scenes, but has a set of tools. And one way to see this is an extra gift. Now, if we are able to hold this perspective, to feel that we are travelers, that we are players in this big drama of life, then we will shift from problems to play. Play. So we don't necessarily change external, but we change internally.
I'm an actor, and I didn't think about it all for the last 20 minutes, and you were reminding us that play is a part of life. It's a verb, it's a sport, and it had to be used as to it can also be a play. Yeah, right.
And it is interesting to observe, no? What do children naturally do? They play. They play, no? And how do parents know children are not well? When they stop playing. So part of our innate nature, the spiritual perspective is we are made to play, but we have lost the perspective. So we have become ill. And like I said, just reiterating, not childish or trying to minimize your life situations. I'm not trying to do that. But you are empowered internally if you are having a different view of things. And there is someone who, this situation always comes to my mind. Someone who is kind of very successful in his career life, very recognized and respected by his friends and in social circumstances. But when he comes home, the only thing they let him always do is wash the dishes. He always has to wash the dishes, to wash the dishes, to wash the dishes. So one thing, this ego doesn't feel, why should I be washing the dishes? But how he shifted it is he feels he is playing with water. And he says, when I play with water, and if I play well, then the dishes smile at me. So he says, I have to spend that 10, 15 minutes every time anyway. So why be miserable? So he changed it into playing with water. And he is light, the dishes smile, and everyone is happy. And the ego came down, which is a good thing. So to learn the art of life, that is another one. Do you see life as an art? The art of life is not to avoid or to endlessly hope that nothing goes wrong. But to learn to trust the tools that are inside, acknowledge the tools, emerge the tools, empower yourself, and play the game, dignified and wisely, without losing your sense of self and self-respect. Any final thoughts?
This woman next to me asked about how to, a simple thing, how to turn positive, how to lose the ego in one tool or two, as a reminder.
How to lose the ego? We have fed the different egos within us over a long period of time. So to get rid of them is to stop feeding them. Like this example of this washing the dishes. He could have said, I am way too good for this. This is below my, what is this? But that means he would have continued to feed the ego. But he has allowed that situation to make him egoless, and doing it with joy instead of with pain. So not to feed it. Recognize, acknowledge, and not feed it. But if you would have said, no way, someone else has to do that, I'm too good for that, then actually the ego inflates more.
Now he likes to wash a dish and cook.
Yeah. And cook, yeah, he does that too.
I was very grateful, like 40 minutes ago, when I heard you say, and then I lost the one word, and later you said it again, thank God I came back. You say not only have to try and attain the creative state, for such and such a challenge or his life, but then you said adventurous state.
Yeah.
And to me, that's so admiring. I mean, it's about courage, it's about the sport, the art, but that's even stronger than creative.
Yeah.
That's a different angle on creative,
Yeah.
adventurous.
Yeah, adventurous.
It's very noble of you to share that.
And I don't want to, how to say, minimize. I'm not trying to say that misery is a virtue. I'm not trying to say that sometimes really difficult situations are on our plate. I'm not trying to minimize that. What I'm trying to say is, if you are internally empowered by having a different perspective and a different attitude, you can deal with that more effectively.
Trust the tools.
Yeah. Learn to develop, emerge your inner tools to deal with situations. No, there are like illness or death of someone. These are situations that will come in all of our lives. And I don't want to kind of be paternalistic and say that is, those are situations. But you being miserable or you being sad will not change it. And it will not help either. But what will help if you have a broader perspective on life and see that in a broader context, and might even have more healthy and helpful feelings dealing with a situation like that. Because you cannot avoid that. That is part of what is inevitable. But you can go through situations like that with an inner sense of peace and a broader wisdom, and thereby be able to give support and care and even love to others. Or you can be in misery and break down and be a problem for others. You wanted to say?
There is a saying that when life gives you lemon, make a lemonade.
This is nice. When life gives you lemon, make lemonade. Yeah.
So if some situation comes, suppose somebody loses a job, then then you maybe change the career or see what you are good at, pursue a passion, and then maybe you will grow more higher than what you were before.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is a good thing not to have something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Okay, well, shall we close with some moments of silence and as we sit quietly, we allow the body to relax. Let the breathing be regular. And just bring all your attention in this moment, here and now. And we remind ourselves that we are conscious, living beings, and that this body is our physical vehicle. But we are souls, beings of light. And we could use the image of a tiny star living, serene, pure. Being of light, like a star in the center of the forehead behind the eyes. The experiencer, the one who is creating thoughts and feelings. And we just hold these thoughts of being a being of light, giving life to this body. An eternal, timeless, free, innately pure and peaceful soul. And we just fill our minds with quiet, still, light. This is the essence of who I am. A spiritual traveler through time and space. Pure, peaceful, soul. And as we go through the rest of the evening, we aim to stay connected to this feeling of pure, peaceful self. We aim to stay connected to this spiritual identity, the spiritual perspective on self and life. Om. Shanti. Thank you. Just wanted to extend a special invitation. I know all of you know about the Thursday, but Thursday 26th of December we will have little bit kind of Christmas. Christmas atmosphere, not that it is religious but more spiritual. We will have special meditation with. So just bring your friends also if you want to. It will be extra special. It is always nice, but just to remind, even though Christmas is on a Wednesday, the 25th, but we will be open on the 26th, and we will have meditation by candlelight and whatever. So bring your friends or whoever, your relatives who have interests also. But we will have other Thursdays before that. Okay. Yeah, playmates.